Baseball player evaluation. Is it just Sabermetrics or is there more to it than that? Let's dig into it.
You cannot feel this energy.
Sabermetric data analysis has been coined as something that is new to baseball and new to sports. Well, it's not quite new. It's the next iteration of stat keeping. They kept a book when I was a kid, and we looked at our data when I was a kid. In fact, every Monday in college, that is posted in the dugout publicly for everyone to see. The running totals for the week before or the totals for the week before, and then the running totals for the season, so that you get an idea of exactly where you stand from last week to this week to the beginning of the season and where you are against other players. So the sabermetric data takes that a step further. It's a deeper dive into analytics, really originally it was based off player projection on who can make it to the big leagues and how productive could they be. That was all showcased in the movie Moneyball. Now it is more in line with winning and what to do in certain situations and a whole different set of data points to look at for coaches. And I'm telling you that to tell you this. The recruiting process has changed. It is definitely very different. Is it changed for the better or for the worse? I don't know. Here's the point I'm trying to make. Getting caught up in just sabermetric data, what your velo is and what your spin rate is and how hot the ball is coming off your bat, can be very, very misleading. There are other things that coaches are looking at to recruit players to college and certainly to the pro ball arena. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a section of a podcast I did with Coach Bryan, who is the coach of a fantastically high elite program in North Florida, Tallahassee College. And during this little segment I'm going to show you, we talked about how he evaluates players, what he is looking for, what he's not looking for, and all those data points on how he makes his decision, he and his staff, on what players to recruit. Now, I want you to stick around at the end because when we come back from that segment, I'm going to give you some very specific takeaways based off of what we talked about so you know what you need to do to position yourself in a manner that's very attractive for these coaches and what they are looking for. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so YouTube will notify you the next time we post a video. Right now, let me get you that interview with Coach Henry. So a big deal. Is there a number? Is there a velo number? Is there a number that it's like, okay, it needs to be better than that? Or it needs to be at this certain mark? Is there something you're looking for specifically?
For me, I'm still the old school kind of guy and more of the projectability guy. I look for the body frame, body type, and then I want to see the stats of, the old school, if you want to call it sabermetrics, the strikeout to walk ratio, right? As a hitter and as a pitcher. And then once we get guys here, then we understand, with Figgy's brother, his twin brother is Cole, who's, in the Rays front office, who is the most analytical team in the big league. So he is actually kind of instilling that in us, teaching us some things. So once we get here, we'll do some more of the analytical stuff. But getting the guys, I don't want to be that guy that is all numbers. I trust my eyes. I trust Figgy trusts his ability to just, that guy can play.
Who's he remind you of, kind of thing? I played with so-and-so.
Yeah,
he moves
comps.
like so-and-so. Player comp. Right.
Yep.
Now, you mentioned the stats. Now, this is we're giving some secrets away. We're pulling the drapes back a little bit. It's not just velo numbers and spin rates and things like that. It's head-to-head stats.
Oh, yeah.
Strike to walk ratio. Strikeouts, home runs, total bases. You can't completely trust all of the stats, but if there's enough stats, you're looking at performance-based stats, not just evaluative stuff where you can measure bat speed and things like that.
Right.
How does it equate to a game, essentially?
Yeah, I mean, it's to the game, it's not about the numbers. It's about winning the individual battle, whether you're the pitcher facing the hitter or whether you're the hitter facing the pitcher. And that goes back to the practice side of things. Am I prepared to win this battle? Mm-hmm. And so for us, that's what we kind of take pride in is our preparation and how we practice. And we want all of our guys stepping into that battle feeling confident. And, when we're training, we'll look at the numbers, but when you're in that batter's box, you're not thinking about, okay, I need my launch angle at 14 degrees to hit this. No, you're like, the name of the game is getting on first base.
Right. So now you're talking about working them through approach strategies and how to change an approach strategy, when to stay with it, when not to stay with it. So the savvy, the gamesmanship of baseball, the play of baseball. So, yeah, the exit velocity is 105 miles an hour. Okay, I got 8 guys that can do that. Yeah. Your spin rate's, 1,500. Well, there's 3 more over there that can do that. Can you win?
Right.
Are you taking an approach in? Do you have a plan, or are you just hacking? Because if you're going up just hacking, as a former college coach and pro scout, you're just an out waiting to be recorded.
Correct.
You heard Coach Henry talk about a great deal of information there, ranging all the way from player projection to sabermetric information. What I want to do right now is give you the grand overview of what the recruiting process for college coaches looks like. And it all really factors under 2 categories: performance and attitude. Programs that are either college programs or pro programs, and of course high school programs follow this model too, are going to evaluate their players based off of these 2 categories. Their performance category, which is how you play, your ability to field ground balls, pitch, and hit. And they're also going to evaluate players based off their attitude. Are they a good fit? Are they coachable? Can we work with them within our program? Within this umbrella of player performance, coaches are going to value several different things. One of them being their projectability as an athlete, how they project. And there are 2 primary factors that we look at in projecting a player. The first is their body type. What kind of body do they have? Are they short and stout? Are they long and lean? And the reason we want to look at this as coaches is because the nature of our sport makes it easier for taller, longer, leaner, faster guys to produce force. Now, that doesn't mean shorter, slower guys can't produce force. It just means that it's easier for that 6'4" shortstop to be able to produce force at the plate. He has longer levers. 6'6" pitcher has longer levers. It's just easier mechanically to produce force. Within that projectability is also a 5-tool measurement system that we've used for decades. And the 5 tools are the athlete's ability to throw over great distance, their ability to field, their ability to run, which we call speed, obviously, and hit for power and hit for average. And these are the 5 tools that are very easily measured when you go to combines and showcases, and you go to colleges for invited visits, and even pro tryouts measure these tools. Sabermetrics from a recruiting standpoint can be a little bit of a slippery slope. One of the primary tenets of sabermetrics and what makes sabermetrics data as reliable as it can be is a very large sample size. Lots of at-bats, lots of innings pitched, lots of innings on the field, lots of games. And college coaches, when recruiting high school guys don't play that many games, comparatively speaking. So the sabermetric thing for college coaches has to be reliable. So it has to have a lot of data. So they can't use the entire scope of sabermetrics. It usually comes down to just a couple of things. For pitchers, that's going to be your overall velocity and spin rate. And for the hitters, that's really going to be your exit velo. Player comparison, or what's also called player comp, is yet another tool that pro scouts and college recruiters will use to determine if a player is a good fit for their program. This is where body type comes back into play, playing style is talked about, and their overall action. And what they're doing is they're asking themselves, who does this player remind me of? Are they stick it stiff, that powerful stiff like a Trout or a Juan Carlos Stanton? Or do they have that elegant grace and athleticism like a Alex Rodriguez or a Derek Jeter? There is one performance stat that will trump them all, and it is head-to-head matchup, what we call dog on dog. If you learn one thing out of this lesson, let it be this. A college recruiter or a pro scout could care less if you hit 600 in a crappy little summer league, or you were eliminated in the first round and you never played any high-level competition. They want to see you fight for the top, fight for the ring. They want to see you go up against the best guys that are maybe already on recruiting lists, or maybe in summer ball, those guys in college coming back down to that 18U program or competing for state championships. Head-on-head competition is what these guys want to see. That's why you go to the state championship, whatever state that you're in, it is littered with pro scouts and littered with college recruiters. They want to see head-to-head matchups, and that is where you can make the difference in your career. College recruiters and pro scouts are equally as concerned with the attitude of the player as well as the performance. And the reason being is it's not just about getting the best player, it's also about getting the right player for your organization. What that means is this. If you've ever heard the old adage, one bad apple can spoil the bunch, that is 100% true in the dugout, on the bus ride, on the airplanes. You get a high-performing player with an attitude that's really, really bad, hard to be around, it will bring the entire organization down. Within the umbrella of attitude, there are several things that coaches will actually measure. One of them being the discipline of the player. And discipline for us talks about their ability to self-police or self-regulate. Are you chasing them to class? That's a big one. Coaches in college don't want to make sure you're going to class. You need to have the self-discipline, and you need to police yourself that you're going to get up and go to class without prompting. They're going to also look at the accountability. Do you hold yourself accountable? Is it your fault, or is somebody blaming somebody else? And the big one is, can I trust that player? Do they have enough discipline and humility where we can exchange that coachable trust back and forth? Another big measurable fact that we look at as coaches is chemistry. Do they fit in with players? And that's pretty easily observable even from the stands looking in there. Are they off by themselves? Do they not like other players? Are they too jovial, and are they too jocular? Are they the dugout clown? How do they integrate with those players? Because we're around each other on a 60-game college season and 162 on the big leagues. We're around each other more than we're around with our family. So how the players work and interact together both on and off the field makes a huge difference in recruitability. Culture. This is the big one. I've talked in other lessons about finding your fit, where you fit in culturally in a program, and that's about how the program does business. Are they very rigid and staunch and it's a my way highway program, or is it super loosey-goosey and they don't even have a practice plan? Most good programs are going to have a very organized system in which they do business. Basically, it's this. It's how we do business, what it means to be a Trojan, what it means to be a Mustang, what it means to be a Vandy boy or a Gator or a Knoll. How does the culture fit in, and would that player fit in with our culture that we are building? Lastly is coachability, and this is a big one. When you get into college and when you get into pro ball, you're going to be asked to do things differently than you're used to. And is it going to be one of those things where there's going to be fight every time that you and the coach talk about making a change to your swing or making a change to your mechanics? Is it something that you can trust that you and the player will be able to work together for the betterment of the player and the betterment of the program. It all has to work together and falls into that very coachable coach-player relationship that's built. What every college recruiter and pro scout is looking for is the highest performer with the highest attitude, and they overlap like a Venn diagram. And that's not a unicorn by any stretch of the imagination. There's lots of guys out there that are super hard working, great attitude guys that are also very high performers. They're littered on college baseball teams and pro teams all over the place. There are also players out there that are ultra high performers, but they don't have the attitude that matches that. They're a little more challenging to deal with. They're a little moodier, or they bring a level of arrogance that seems misplaced. Now, because they're such high performers, teams are going to give them a little bit of credit. They're going to give them a little leeway. They're going to widen the road for them. But there's only so far that will carry that athlete. If they're dragging other players down and they're creating a shift in the clubhouse, or they're labeled as that team cancer, they won't get much credit after that. They'll either fix their attitude or they'll get released. Just as there are high performers with lower attitudes, there are also super high attitude guys that are a little lower performing. And these super high attitude guys, just like a high attitude, low performer can bring the dugout down and bring the bus down, that high attitude guy can raise the attitude in the dugout and raise the attitude in the clubhouse. And these guys are a bright shining star to every club. We play better when they're with us, kind of thing. Now, you can't be a low performer completely. You have to be able to be played, and you have to be a contributor. The coach won't put you out in the field if you can't defend yourself, or if you're just a liability at the plate. So there has to be some performance standards there. But those high attitude guys can really be a blessing to an organization. What does all this mean for you? It's simple. Control the controllables. You're going to hear this a lot from college coaches. There's lots of stuff that's outside of your control, like your body type. That is what it is. You might be tall, you might be short. Speed is something that God gave you. You can hone it to a certain degree, but speed is not something that you can do a whole lot with. But attitude, all of that attitude is 100% within your control. Showing up to the yard early, policing yourself, being accountable, being a good teammate, fitting into that culture and being super coachable is all within your control. The performance standards you want to work on, you want to improve your mechanics and your strength as much as you possibly can. But taking you back to what I talked about a minute ago, that head-to-head competition. Play the highest level you can against the best players you can as often as you possibly can. That's going to show the coaches that you can perform at a high level against dogs. Use the link in the description to check out the full podcast I did with Coach Henry. And remember to leave your questions in the comment section so I can be sure to ask them on my second interview with him. One last thing. Be sure to check out luposbaseball.com. That's my brand new website. On that website, you will be able to check out all the resources that we have to help you take your game to the next level. I write a blog. I've got a book out. There are free courses, including an IHP course, which is an individual hitting process that'll help you take your hitting to the next level. I put a link in the description below that'll take you to luposbaseball.com, where you can check out all of those awesome resources. And maybe one day you'll make one of our highlight reels. We'll see you on the field.
You cannot feel this energy.